Today I have the pleasure of speaking with Rahim Suleman from Performance Materials. Rahim, how are you?
I am doing wonderful today, Tracy. Thanks so much for having us.
I have done a number of interviews in the last 24 hours, and we've had at least 3 CEOs say they just got back from Estonia and going to your opening, and they were so impressed by your plant. Can you tell us more about it?
Well, that's very kind of you, and I guess that's very kind of them. But I do think the plant is quite a showpiece, but it's more than a showpiece. It is operational, it is running. We got it up and built in less than 500 days. I think it's a critical piece of infrastructure, probably the most important critical materials project that is happening in Europe at present. So we are thrilled to have the grand opening last week, but it's 2 years of effort to get the plant into that position, and still a long journey ahead of us for us really to make a significant dent in this issue.
Well, Jack Lifton is a difficult gentleman to impress, and he hasn't stopped talking about it. I've received several emails about it, and he was just so impressed by the Estonia plant. And speaking of being impressed, I was talking to you just before the interview about, I don't know how you've done it. You've kept your share structure so tight. Less than 42 million shares outstanding, is that correct?
I believe so, yes.
And you're still under $1 billion market cap, so the opportunity is definitely there because you have a lot of analysts covering you.
I think we're getting more and more interest in the investment community, and I think people are seeing that we do the things that we say we're going to do. So we have what we would call a say-do ratio. I think we have a very high say-do ratio. I think we're profitable, we're cash flow generative, we have a healthy balance sheet. So I think we have all the right fundamentals from an investment perspective, and then we have an enormous growth opportunity. And what's happened here in the last kind of 6 months with respect to all the geopolitical churn and the concern about the availability of rare earths and rare earth magnetics really positions the 3 decades of NEO's experience and puts us in just prime position to continue to grow and continue to succeed.
Speaking of prime position, I thought your deal you just announced with Bosch was significant.
I think it was a very significant deal. And Bosch has been a longtime partner with NEO, a longtime customer. We of course been in bonded rare earth magnetics for 30 years. So our agreement with Bosch and our relationship with Bosch just speaks to the kind of partnership that we would have with, frankly, the largest motor makers and motor manufacturers in the world. So Bosch's portfolio is outstanding, their development is outstanding, their demands for technology, quality, price, and delivery are the highest in the industry, and we're proud to partner with Bosch and continue to build rare earth magnetics in Europe.
For those of you out there going, Performance Materials, I've got to check out more information. I recommend you go back to their second quarter results they just put out. You delivered strong second quarter results, up 42% year over year. Let's hit some of those highlights, shall we?
Oh, I think it's been highlight after highlight after highlight, frankly, over the past, call it 6 quarters or 8 quarters. I think that, there was a perception, I think, in the past that our share price or our earnings moved with commodity prices, and we've continued to say that we were a value-add company and we focus on the types of technology and operational expertise that we can bring to our products. But no doubt rare earth prices moved dramatically in periods of times, and people saw that in our earnings. I think now that rare earth prices were reasonably steady kind of for the 6 quarters prior to last quarter, people have seen the strength of NEO, the earnings growth, and what normal looks like today. And of course, tomorrow just gets better.
You're an international company, from Singapore to Europe to Canada. Rare earth prices. Let's ask an expert. What's going on with rare earth prices right now? Is the market frothy, as Constantine described it in an interview with me yesterday, or what do you think?
I think we've long got out of the game of trying to project and predict rare earth prices, particularly in a short-term dynamic. I think rare earth prices tend to move with sentiments that are tied to the industry and sentiments that are not tied to the industry. So rare earth prices have, they've been in the $50 to $60 range for kind of the last 18 months, and then recently they're up probably 50% or even more, actually, from that baseline. I think we see strong demand. I think we see strong fundamentals in the industry. I think we continue to see a rapid growth rate for the need for rare earth and rare earth magnets as we go forward. I'm not sure that compels a 50% price increase in the last 3 months, but you have to remember the the nature of this industry. Back in 2020, 2021, rare earth prices quadrupled in an 18-month period, and then they returned back to their baseline 18 months later. There were some specific reasons kind of around that. I think perhaps this one is just change in the supply and demand balance, probably more on the supply side, with MP Materials no longer selling concentrate into China, probably affected some elements of supply. But I also think we see healthy demand. So you put those two things together, I think that you'll see the sum of the price behavior that we've seen more recently. But overall, I think there's adequate supply in the market. I think the market has ability to put in more and more supply as we go, and I think demand will just continue to rise.
So feedstock, how are you handling that right now?
Well, I think that, you know, the thing that people are most interested in is, of course, the grand opening of our magnet facility in Europe. And our feedstock from Europe, so NEO operates, maybe I'll back up, NEO operates what is one of the most vertically integrated supply chains in the rare earth space, and that we can separate rare earths, we can make metals and alloys, and we make magnets. But we operate our business with a desire to create the most robust supply chain that we can operate within. So each of our businesses are free to purchase internally, and they're free to purchase externally, and equally we are selling externally as well as selling internally. And we do that because we think that that's what will help build the industry and kind of continue to develop more and more suppliers across the industry. So today our Estonian facility will be purchasing probably the majority of its feedstock from players like Lynas. Lynas is separating light rare earths. It's the largest separator of light rare earths. It's also beginning its journey to separate heavy rare earths. Of course, NEO has 30 years of experience in separating heavy rare earths, and we've also now installed equipment in our Estonian separation facility to separate heavy rare earths. And then we buy from metal makers in Southeast Asia who would also purchase from other sources around the world, including MP Materials. So we have, I would argue, the most diverse supply chain in the industry, and I think that that is by design.
With the market as hot as it is right now, you must have customers knocking your door down.
It is quite interesting. So I certainly think that, you know, with the events that have happened over the 6 months, the customer concern level for diversity of supply has become just that much more important. I think it was always important, and it was always on the customer's radar. And when we decided to build this European sintered magnet facility, it was about customers managing their concentration risk. It wasn't about any one jurisdiction, but it was about there's just a high concentration risk in a single jurisdiction. And I think customers wanted to localize some of that supply so that they could manage the risk and frankly be closer to the overall technology. In the last 6 months, so that's how we started our Estonian facility, focusing on those types of opportunities, particularly traction motors for electric vehicles. Since then, I think the floodgates have opened. The spotlight on needing a more diverse supply chain, and not a completely independent supply chain, but a more diverse supply chain where one can manage risk and one can be closer to the developments with respect to the motors and the magnets, has become increasingly important across all customers, across all industries. So certainly the phones have been ringing off the hook. We have more customers looking for more demand than we can possibly supply. But we have long-standing relationships with the largest motor manufacturers in the world, and our commitment to them is we will deliver, and we will deliver responsibly, and we will ramp responsibly. So the opportunities are frankly beyond our capacity. They're beyond our capacity for their next phase of what we would expand to kind of shortly. But today we focus on delivering to our customers one customer at a time and one program at a time, although frankly, it's more than one customer and more than one program at a time. But we ramp responsibly. We have no concern around demand level. We're just looking at how do we ramp the plant responsibly.
So with the most cumulative rare earth revenue of any company in the world, Rahim Suleman, thank you so much for joining us today. And for everybody out there wanting more information on NEO Performance Materials, please go to the following website. Thank you, Rahim.
Thank you so much, Tracy. Nice to be here today.